Welcome, everybody, to the April 3rd, 2023 Finance Committee meeting. All committee members are present. For those who will be making any type of public comment, please approach the podium and identify yourself when that time comes. Also, if you could please make sure that your cell phones are on vibrate or mute. We won't be discussing any other items than those listed on the agenda. And with that, Jen, if you could please read the first item.
Number 15, resolution providing for the adoption of a fund balance policy in accordance with the Governmental Accounting Standard Board, GASB, statement number 54.
Staff report.
Hi, good afternoon. Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. Before you is a proposed policy that addresses the level of unrestricted fund balance, commonly referred to as reserves, that should be maintained in the city's general fund. Per Resolution 5605, which was adopted back in 2014, the city is required to maintain a minimum of 60 days of general fund operating reserves. Each 7 days of operating reserves equals a little over $1 million. My recommendation is to increase this level to a minimum of 120 days. This policy outlines the recommendation as well as what needs to occur if this level ever drops below that 120 days due to an economic downturn or unanticipated expenditures. The city, as of the end of February, has 224 days of operating reserves. This equates to nearly $37.7 million. Of that amount, $27.6 million is considered spendable per the current policy of 60 days. If the 120-day policy is approved, the current spendable amount will be lowered to $17.5 million. The policy also addresses how funds are committed and assigned. Under this policy and current practice, the mayor is authorized to assign reserves for specific purposes, which is much less restrictive than committing reserves, which is only the governing body can do. A recent example of an assignment by Mayor Collins is the $2 million that he assigned back in 2021 to help pay 59% of the fire pension A liability that the city currently has, which is about 4.9 million. Examples of commitments that the governing body does are when I ask you for a reappropriation or the budget ordinance that takes reserves. The governing body can override an assignment by the mayor as well. Also for comparison, in the memo that I wrote to you, I provided the different municipalities in Wyoming and their reserve level requirements. And thank you for your consideration, and I will stand for questions.
Questions for Treasurer Lockman?
Mr. Chairman.
We'll go with Mr. Roybal first, then Dr. Aldridge.
If we do this to 120 days, does that are we going to hamstring ourselves in future projects?
Mr. Chairman, it lowers the amount of spendable reserves, if that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm wondering. Will it, if we've got a project we want, do we have to go back and redo a resolution to drop it back to 60 days? Or can we unassign or?
Mr. Chairman, so we'd have to amend the policy, which you could do at any time.
Okay. And just is your recommendation because you feel more comfortable with having 20 days as opposed to 60?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, absolutely. With the volatile revenues that the city, all the municipalities have in Wyoming, sales tax is the primary source of revenue for us, and it's extremely volatile. Some years it can be like this current year, we're looking at 24 million. You know, like in 2018, it was about, like 15 million. And so it can vary a lot depending on the economic situation.
Okay, Mr. Chair, through you.
Go ahead, Scott.
What is, in your term with the city, what is the lowest we've had?
And the lowest, so for at least as far as number of days, back in 2012 and in 2013, it was 43 days. Since I've been treasurer, the lowest was 68 days, and that was back in 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you. Robin, this resolution refers to an exhibit A that we don't have in our packets. So I'm guessing that actually is the fund balance policy, where it actually talks about the mayor's ability to.
Yeah, so you
Set it
didn't
by
have
money?
this?
We don't have that.
It's at the bottom, whereas clause, it says, whereas the city of Cheyenne has established a fund balance policy attached here to as exhibit A. I don't believe any of us Okay.
So
I,
I feel really uncomfortable
well, yeah, I
voting
don't.
on that today if we haven't seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Escabel.
Policy is no different for 60 days than it is for 120. Is it just the number of days? The
It's
policy,
the dollar amount.
yeah, the policy stays the same. It's just the amount.
Yes,
Use your mic, please. Go ahead.
can you repeat the question?
That the policy that we're talking about this, the only thing that really changes is the amount, not the policy itself.
So so 120 days versus 60 days, the level can change because it's based on our annual budget. And so 60 days of our annual budget is a lot less than 120 days, but every year we change our we increase our budget or change our budget. So that amount will vary, but the dollar amount changes, but it just depends on the budget. Yeah, the policy will be 120. Currently, it's 60 days.
Right.
But my understanding is
Go-
that's not the only policy.
Go ahead, Dr. Aldrich. Is that the only policy we have regarding reserves, Robin?
Mr. Chairman, currently, yes. It's not even a policy right now. It's a resolution that was done back in 2014.
I remember when we passed that resolution back in.
And Mr. Chairman, prior to that, it was 6 million. It was just a set dollar amount,
Right.
but that's not a good practice to do.
And can you tell us, in your vast experience, even with the amount of reserves that we've been able to accumulate over the years, thanks to the hard work of staff and previous councils, where do we rank statewide? There was one time where Cheyenne was the lowest out of all the municipalities in the state.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are the lowest
Still,
still.
thank you. Dr. Aldrich?
Chairman White, through you, will 120 days, we will no longer be the lowest? At 120 days?
So, Mr. Chairman, on the memo that I provided, you can see the different municipalities. We won't be, I think Sheridan will be the lowest. I believe it's 90 days.
Well, I think the memo that you're referring to, I think you sent in an email. Was that correct?
It was all together in one packet.
No. Okay.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Not seeing that either. So if we could just have those things resent to us
Right.
and perhaps all of our colleagues, that would be extremely helpful before going to the full governing body next week. Dr. Aldrich, did you have another
I
question?
did have one more question, Chairman White, now that we have this document.
Mhm.
My understanding from when you gave your staff report, Robin, was that the other item that was changing or that you brought our attention to was the fund balance category of assigned, where the mayor has the ability to assign funds. Is that different than what we currently are doing?
Mr. Chairman, through you, that is Governmental Accounting Standard Board's policy. There's 5 different categories of fund balance. There's non-spendable, there's restricted, there's committed, assigned, and not unassigned. And so it's a nationwide policy. So it's not a policy, it's a regulation. Or those categories. So assigned means that the CEO or the executive can assign. It's a lower restriction than committed is what the governing body can do.
Is there a follow-up? Is there a dollar amount that would be that the mayor would be authorized to assign?
Mr. Chairman, through you. No, there is not. However, the governing body at any time can override what he does. And the other item that he assigned was some funds that we received for a permanent lease that is going to the gymnastics facility. He assigned that about 2 years ago. And this is always in the monthly report that I provide. It shows all the assignments and the commitments.
Which we appreciate. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Hearing none. Comments from the public? Anyone on Zoom, Jen? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to adopt.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Escabel.
Just recalling back when we had our first goal setting session, and probably even before that, because I remember Councilman Shaner mentioning that when we talked about reserves, the city probably needed to move up to the 120-day threshold, and it's been a long time coming. I know I've talked with the treasurer about it a few times, and I'm glad to see that we're finally able to do that.
Any further comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Thank you, Robin. Next item, please.
Number 16, resolution expressing the will of the governing body to consider specified downtown six-penny tax project funds for infrastructure enhancements for the Children's Museum of Cheyenne from 2021 specific purpose option tax fund.
Staff report. Okay.
President Johnson, would you like to give a staff report on this item?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Charles. Thank you.
Chair and Committee, Charles Bloom, Planning Development Director, for the record. This is a request to utilize some of the $6 dollars that are specifically reserved for infrastructure improvements within the Downtown Development Authority District. The Children's Museum is presently constructing a new facility, the first one here in Cheyenne on the corner of its 17th and Thomes to O'Neill. In that area, it's that north half of the block. In putting together this resolution, which was put together by Councilmember Johnson, it was identified that several of their costs could be covered under this tax. All of the proposed improvements that would be funded with that tax item are public amenities. I'm presently looking real quick through this to see the exact dollar amount. The total dollar amount that would be eligible based on the cost estimates for the public improvements is $288,250. The projection for that tax revenue, which was proposition number 10 on the most recent ballot, had estimated that we would see approximately $6,017,966 in that fund. So as you can see, this is a small portion of that overall expected revenue, and it should really help to revitalize that area and provide some additional financing options for the Children's Museum. I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Stand by, Charles.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roybal.
so this is a resolution that goes through and then we voted, if we voted in on Monday night, when does the work start?
Chair, through you to Councilmember Roybal, they're presently moving dirt right now. They have excavated for the foundation. They may be waiting for better weather to pour, but there's activity on the site right now. It is presently under construction.
And follow up is, when does our portion of the work start? The infrastructure?
Chair, through you to Councilmember Roybal, I'm not exactly certain when they will work on that, but this would be a reimbursable amount. So they would be the ones completing the work after they have all the appropriate approvals from the engineering department and also the community recreation events urban forester for the tree plantings.
So they would use the contractor they have on site to do this, or?
Chair, through you to Councilmember Roybal, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Charles? Dr. Aldrich? Oh, I thought you, okay. Sometimes it's like a game show up here and I'm just, whoever gets first. Hearing none, any comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to adopt an amount not to exceed 288
Oh, my apologies, sir. I did not see your hand. Welcome, Ms. Veit.
Good afternoon. My name is Caroline Veit, and I'm president of the board for Children's Museum of Cheyenne. Mr. White, Chair and Finance Committee, I'm here to ask for your positive support of the resolution before you. I'd like to thank President Johnson for his guidance and support in drafting this resolution, as well as the other city staff who are involved for their review and input. We have shared documentation in front of you, including the rendering of the front facade of the museum, 5R construction manager at risk cost breakdown, the map of the proposed project, and the reasons Children's Museum of Cheyenne meets the funding outlined. 6 penny funds were passed, and as Charles Bloom covered in 2021. And there were several reasons that were shared with the community for that tax proposition, which included that people want to be downtown, and at that 91% of Cheyenne and Laramie County residents has vocalized wanting to see efforts that effectively work to improve downtown. 68% of Cheyenne and Laramie County visitors have identified experiencing downtown as their top activity to do in Cheyenne, which contributes to sales tax revenue and benefits for all Laramie County. Infrastructure improvements have an estimated cost increase of 4% each year, which impacts the bottom line and expresses necessary repairs, maintenance, improvements that benefit the entire community. And as the heart of the capital city of Wyoming, downtown Cheyenne is the center for social, economic, and cultural development. The Children's Museum of Cheyenne will be a hub for these economic and cultural experiences. The funds we were requested will be used for curb, gutters, street repair, and alley upgrade, and will provide the infrastructure for this open lot in downtown. It will also benefit the 7 surrounding businesses and Lotus Townhomes directly to the east. Children's Museum of Cheyenne's vision has been to bring a wow experience and be a community catalyst. These funds will help us bring another step closer to fulfilling our mission of inspired learning for children and their families through hands-on interactive fun. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'll be available for questions. And we also have our contractor, 5R Construction here, if you have any questions of them as well.
Thank you, Ms. Veit. There might be additional questions once we get to comments or questions from the committee. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Through you, sir, Michael White. Her comments were for curb and gutter. Is there any other stuff that's on the project that this would go to? More specifically, is it sewer and water or just curb and gutter and those kind of things? So that's all the questions for me.
Thank you, sir. According to the documentation that we have, the scope of work includes site utilities, infrastructure for water, sanitary sewage, and storm sewage, right-of-way improvements, which include site grading, site hardscapes, and asphalt paving, and also alley grading, base course, and concrete paving, totaling a cost of $288,250. Great question. We appreciate it. If there are no other comments or questions from the public, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $288,250.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee? Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you, I'm really excited about this project, and I'm really excited that it's being done by a nonprofit group of concerned citizens that came together to put this together. And just a big believer that, government shouldn't do anything that private enterprise and nonprofits can do themselves. And this shows a great public partnership being done together. So I think it's a great project.
Thank you, Dr. Aldridge. Other comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 17, resolution adopting the Wyoming Region 7 Hazard Mitigation Plan 2023 update.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Janine West, the Director of Emergency Management for Cheyenne and Laramie County.
Really nice to see you, Janine. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
I know.
Last time I think I saw you, we were getting the daily COVID updates, so I'm happy this is for something
I
different.
know. And it's not through Zoom. Like everybody's like, oh, she does have.
Right.
Yes.
Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. The resolution is for the adoption of the Region 7 mitigation plan. This plan is updated every 5 years, thankfully. This is Platte, Laramie, and Goshen County. The state office, Wyoming Office of Homeland Security hires a contractor to do the update for us. It doesn't cost us anything. It costs us some time. So several departments within the city, Charles Bloom and his folks worked a lot with us to get the city of Cheyenne portion completed. Once the plan is adopted, what this does for the city of Cheyenne and all the other jurisdictions within Laramie County, this allows you guys to go direct to FEMA for any mitigation funding that you may need for projects around the city. Without adoption, you would just have to go through the county. So that's all it is. This plan identifies all of the hazards, threats that we've had throughout history in Cheyenne and Laramie County. Every disaster, hailstorms, windstorms, every bit of that's documented within this plan. It is a little bit delayed because they missed some stuff that I wanted added in there, like big snowstorms. We need data on that. So
Don't mention those with the
I know, I
coming
know.
storm. We're hoping we can dodge this one.
yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much. Are there comments or questions for Janine? I'm sure they missed one hailstorm.
Through
at
you, sir,
least.
we could probably put that in the fine print somewhere if you'd really like.
Thanks, Janine.
You're welcome.
Are there any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Thanks, Janine, and thanks for the great work you guys do for us. Next item, please.
Number 18, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute settlement participation forms for the city of Cheyenne to participate in the settlement agreements designated as the Teva, Allergon, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart National Opioid Settlement.
Staff report.
Stephanie Boster, Cheyenne City Attorney. What you have before you is a resolution which would authorize the mayor with the authority to execute the settlement participation forms. Those are all online, and that's for 5 additional settlements in the Purdue Pharma litigation. We already received one settlement, and that's related to the One YO settlement. This is a second set of settlements funds. And what we're doing at the city is we have a fund created that we're putting these funds into as we accumulate them. This is totally separate than the original sum we received, but it will also go into that same fund. The limitation is really, we can't just use them for anything. We're really limited to using them for abatement of opioid addiction. The city of Cheyenne is receiving a relatively small amount of these funds, especially given that we were one of the original participants in that litigation. We're looking at 1.23% of what municipalities will receive. So what we're trying to do is maybe partner with the county hospital or with the county and kind of pool all of our funds together and hopefully get the best bang for our buck. But the resolution before you concerns really this new pool of 5 additional settlement funds from what we've already received. And I'm open for questions.
Thanks, Stephanie. Stand by. Comments for our city attorney? We'll go, this time we'll go Dr. Aldridge first and then Mr. Roybal. Go ahead,
Switch back
Dr.
here.
Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you. On Exhibit B in our packet, it shows Laramie County receiving 15.59%. So that's our share of that is the 1.32 that you just mentioned.
Mr. Chairman, through you, no, that's not correct. We're getting 1.23% of the total funds that are going to municipalities and local governments. The county is getting much larger, but we're not getting a portion of their settlement.
Okay.
We're getting our own.
Thank you.
Mr. Royball.
Mr. Chair, through you, my question is basically the same as Chairwoman or Councilwoman's. We get, Laramie County is 100,000 people, say. We have 65,000 of those people, yet we're getting 1.23 and they're getting, are they limited to spending their portion in the county only, or can that overlap into our area or region?
Mr. Chairman, through you, they can spend it in Cheyenne if they'd like to do so. The limitation is trying to figure out where to spend the money. And really that money belongs, I think, to the county hospital, because if you look at where those abatement funds can be spent, they're pretty limited. In the city of Cheyenne, we've identified the LEADS program through the police department, but that program is well done and well funded. So that's not a great location for it. We've also talked to Youth Alternatives, but we've got to be careful about how we spend those funds and their settlement funds. So we don't want to spend them improperly. So really, I've been working with Renee Smith on this and we've been talking to the hospital, and it seems like they're the natural recipient of that funding, unless there's another entity of the county that we might be able to look at. But this is an issue that municipalities and counties throughout the state of Wyoming are grappling with. Where do we spend these funds? So the nice thing is we do have a fund where we can put those monies while we figure it out. But as of now, I can't tell you where we're going to spend it. And I don't think the county can answer that question either. But I do think the citizens of Cheyenne will also benefit from Laramie County's allocation of funding.
Dr. Aldrich, follow up?
Yeah, follow up, Chairman White. In looking at the documentation here, it looks like some of these funds might be able to be utilized by Laramie County Public Health in some of the public health and public education works that they do. There's also under letter I, services for children that would support housing and other residential services related to children that are removed from the home or placed in foster care. I just think that there might be some possibilities for some partnerships with other entities that are providing some of these services in our community. So I'm wondering, like, for instance, we make an annual donation or an annual contribution to Safe Harbor, which I'm guessing would fall under support for children's services for any children that were removed from the home or placed in foster care due to custodial opioid use for visitations and some of the work that's done at Safe Harbor. So we might look at some of the things we are currently expending and see if there might be other ways that we can utilize some of these funds for that. It would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aldrich. Any other comments or questions for Stephanie? Thanks, Stephanie. Stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I'd move to adopt.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 19G, Business Associate Agreement between the City of Cheyenne, Cheyenne Regional Medical Center, and Dr. Claire White for the Behavioral Health Co-Response Project.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Before you is the business associate agreement between Cheyenne Regional and basically the difference. This was approved a few months ago. The way the process works, we are the first one in a long line of everyone else who has to sign. And as it was going through, there were some discrepancies. We are a subrecipient of the county. And so as a subrecipient, we don't control that communication with AMR. So AMR and the county are talking about basically their portion of the BAA, but they have requested that we go ahead and push this agreement forward because it is tied to the co-response grant that has a very tight deadline. So the county is requesting that we go ahead and sign it. They will work on their own with AMR in whatever form they need to, but as the first step in the signature process, they have requested that we send this through. Again, there's no other changes to this agreement than the one that was approved. I believe it was in December.
And I'm here for questions.
Thanks, Renee. Questions for Renee? Hearing none. Comments from the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
I haven't changed my mind that it's a good project since we first looked at this in December. So now we're now in April, and so we'll just keep forging ahead. Hopefully we can get it off the ground.
Just as a side note, we may have to bring the other agreement back forward once we get the extension approved. So it's the gift that keeps on giving.
And we wonder why things move at a snail's pace sometimes. Thank you, Renee. If there are no other comments from the committee, all those in favor of the agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 19H, professional services contract between the city of Cheyenne and Kyle M. Brandon for public defender services.
Staff report.
Stephanie Bonster, Cheyenne City Attorney. You may know that currently the city of Cheyenne has two public defenders on contract. Those are Andrew Sickenberger from Woodhouse Roden and Kyle Brandon, I think, who runs Brandon Law Office. This contract decreases Kyle Brandon's contract from $7,200 a month to, I think we landed at 42 or $4,500 a month. The reason for that decrease is that the city of Cheyenne has extended an offer to Mr. Sickenberger to work as an employee of the city of Cheyenne as the city public defender. He'll start on May 1st. So the intention here is for Mr. Sickenberger to take most of the public defender cases. Mr. Brandon will take the excess, and then we've got an additional attorney who will take any conflicts. And the goal here is to hopefully stabilize the mayor's budget with regard to public defenders, which has been over budget for several years now. And I'm available for questions.
Thanks, Stephanie. Stand by. Questions for Stephanie? Dr. Aldrich?
Chairman White, I just, in reading through this contract, Stephanie, it appears to me that we are just going to be doing a flat rate every month, regardless of what number of hours he works as our public defender. It says quarter time, which I'm assuming that would be 10 hours per week roughly, of a full-time public defender. But it doesn't say that this is going to be based on hours performed. It's just a flat rate that we're giving him each month.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldrich, that's correct. And for your information, I've taken the state's public defender contract, and I'm not intending to pay over what Diane Lozano is paying her people. That's why it's called a quarter public defender contract, because it's much less than what she's paying her part-time public defenders. There is intentionally no hourly rate. I anticipate this individual will be at arraignments on Monday and Wednesdays, and also will be wrapping up their cases. But we'll be carefully monitoring Mr. Sickenberger's caseload and Mr. Brandon's to make sure it's fair, that he's not carrying the same caseload as Andrew Sickenberger, since Andrew will be receiving more pay. But intentionally, there's no hourly amount in there because we're not tracking his hours. If it becomes unfair, he'll cancel his contract.
Thanks, Stephanie. Other questions for Stephanie? Hearing none. Comments from the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $54,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of the professional services contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 19I, memorandum of understanding between the city of Cheyenne and the Church of St. Mary for Olivet Cemetery grounds maintenance, irrigation, operations, and administrative services.
Staff report.
Mr. Chair, Jason Sanchez, Community Rec and Events. So the agreement you have before you has actually been in place for many decades. The cemetery staff, the city cemetery staff has performed the interments, disinterments, and day-to-day grounds maintenance at Olivet Cemetery. The Church of St. Mary's then pays us for the hours that we put in doing that work. In 2008, we drafted an MOU, and every few years since then, we come before the governing body just to give updates to the contract, make changes, and then get your approval for about a 3-year period of time. The most significant changes in this contract is the fee for irrigation water. I do have Neil O'Donnell with the Church of St. Mary's here, Nathan Chapman with the Cemetery Division, and Director Brad Brooks will all be available for questions.
Thanks, Jason. Comments or questions for Mr. Sanchez? Dr. Aldrich?
Chairman White, in reading through this contract, Jason, I guess I did not know that we had a contract where we were actually receiving funding from St. Mary's for care of Olivet Cemetery. Is this part of the cemetery also receiving the new irrigation system?
Mr. Chair, through you. No, ma'am. It is a private cemetery, so the irrigation installation that we're currently doing is in the city-owned cemeteries.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions for Jason? Hearing none, comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all,
Chair,
oh,
It's just a quick.
Mr. Roybal.
What's the approximate revenue to the city off of this contract?
Mr. Chair, through you, last year, I think, I believe the total payment was a little over $72,000 to the city.
Thank you. There are no other comments from the committee. All those in favor of the memorandum of understanding between the city and Church of St. Mary for Olivet Cemetery grounds maintenance, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 21D, consideration of bid number S-17-23 for an agreement between the City of Cheyenne and SNS Builders LLC for the Pioneer Park Hip Roof Shelter from Development Impact Fees and Community Development Block Grant.
Staff report.
Mr. Chair, Jason Sanchez, Community Rec and Events. So this shelter will go in at Pioneer Park. As you're all aware, we house our rec camp program out at Pioneer Park. In all these years, whenever it gets hot and sunny, the only reprieve for the kids is actually back in the building. So we wanted to build a shelter, something outdoor where they could have lunch or at least get out of the sun on those hot days. We were benefactors of a community development block grant in the amount of $72,457. And the remaining portion of this project will come out of our impact fees, our park improvement fees. The total and low bid is with SNS Builders in the amount of $115,415, and we ask for your support.
Thanks, Jason. Stand by. Comments or questions for Mr. Sanchez? Hearing none. Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $115,415.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the bid consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 21E, consideration of bid number E-3-23 for an agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Goat Green LLC for vegetation management for Crow Creek.
Welcome, Mr. Cobb. I believe this is our annual item about goats.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Tom Cobb, City Engineer. Before you and for your consideration, obviously, is the agreement between City of Cheyenne and Goat Green LLC for our annual vegetation management. This one's specific to Crow Creek this time. We had one responsive bidder. It was Goat Green LLC out of Fort Collins. Mr. Bird and myself, Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Trowbridge reviewed the bids and are asking for your acceptance of our lowest responsive bidder. The unique portion of this one, we did this a little bit different this year. This was a partnership between Laramie County and ourselves. That's Laramie County Weed and Pest. And Mr. Sanchez was responsible for putting this together, and Mr. Trowbridge. So each of us contributed $80,000. We set the bid at a total fixed fee of $160,000. And we basically took the number of animals, divided by the number of days they chose to put the animals and the days in. And we tried to bring a few more bidders into this. It did not work the way that we had hoped for. But again, I think we're going to take a really hard look at this and evaluate what our effectiveness is. And thanks to Mr. Trowbridge, we're really looking at spotting and trying to get vegetation that specifically we can get out a certain period of time. So he's going to help us monitor that. We're going to also do some aerial views with our drone to really pay attention on how effective this really is moving forward. With that being said, I'll take any questions that you might have. I guess I can give you the location. If you look at page 2 of the memo, we're really going to focus on the southern end of Crow Creek, basically south of Lincoln Way, and work our way to the southeast. And in this case, we have 460 animals that she's going to place for 20 days. So that's our ratio is 23. So high animals, low days. And we're really going to, like I said, evaluate this as we see it.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Mr.
My
Roybal?
only comment was that's a lot of goats.
That is a lot of goats. Other comments or questions from the committee from Mr. Cobb?
Chairman White, through you.
Dr. Aldridge?
I have had some calls from constituents. They either love or hate the goats. It seems to be kind of a mixed bag there. But I have had questions about why only the Crow Creek area. I know last year we did 2 areas, I believe, for this goat vegetation management program. I thought we did 2 drainage areas, but I'm getting calls from the Henderson drainage ditch area people. They're very concerned about their drainage ditch that runs along between Nation Way and over by Lebhart Elementary School. That drainage that goes kind of behind the roadway in.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldridge. Dr. Aldridge, first of all, yes, we did in the past do 2 different drainages. So the program is shifting. We're trying to go focus on one particular one. We found that when we did it the 2 ways, we weren't getting what we really were hoping for, our bang for our buck. So we're going to focus these animals in one area each year and switch them through in a cycle. So the second part of your question is, I guess I'm trying to, in Henderson, we don't have anything this year. I'm focused on more the higher volume areas. So we're going to do a series of dredging projects. I have a contract now and established for 3 dredging projects over the next 3 years in several different basins. So again, it's the combination of the animals plus dredging is how we're going to get an effective program. So you'll see that contract coming forward to you here pretty quickly. Hope that answered your question, ma'am. Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldridge. Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Cobb? Thanks, Tom. Stand by. Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, although, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve in an amount not to exceed $160,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the big consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 22A, request to relocate one dispensing area relating to City of Cheyenne restaurant liquor license held by Capital Cinema 16 located at 3410 Concord Road, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Staff report.
Mr. Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk. This is just a simple request to move a dispensing room within inside of the movie theater. It is a requirement for the licensing authority, which is the governing body, to approve the dispensing areas of any liquor licensee. That's my understanding that it'll allow for better customer service for them, and they will be maintaining property security of the alcohol. And I'd stand for any questions.
Thanks, Chris. And this is just, the dispensing area is already there. It's just moving it within the location, correct?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. Any comments or questions for Ms. Jones?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roybal?
have we had any complaints or problems with this dispensing room or dispensing area or this license?
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Roybal. No, sir, we have not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Jones? Thanks, Chris. Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this request, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. There are no other items on the agenda. This meeting is adjourned. Everyone have a happy Easter, and hopefully we don't get as bad a storm as we may tonight. Have a great day.